Imagine a country of unparalleled beauty, with breathtaking landscapes that seem straight out of a fantasy film. Majestic mountains, dense forests, pristine beaches, and crystal-clear lakes stretched for miles and miles. Now, imagine that most of this stunning land is empty. Welcome to New Zealand, a geographical and demographic enigma that defies logic at first glance. This archipelago in the southwestern Pacific Ocean, famous for its postcard-perfect landscapes and as the setting for Middle-earth in the Lord of the Rings films, hides an intriguing secret. Approximately 80% of its territory is virtually uninhabited. But how is this possible? How can a country so stunning and rich in natural resources have so much unoccupied land? The answer, my friends, is as fascinating as the country itself. Let's start with some surprising numbers. New Zealand has a total area of about 268,000 square kilometers, slightly larger than the United Kingdom. However, its population is only 5 million. To put this in perspective, London alone has nearly 9 million people. This peculiar population distribution creates a unique scenario: vast expanses of untouched land, coexisting alongside modern and vibrant cities. It's as if nature and civilization have made a silent pact, each respecting the other's space. But what led to this unusual situation? The answer lies buried in the depths of time, in the very bowels of the earth, and in the waves that surround these isolated islands. First, let's turn back the clock. Millions of years ago, the tectonic forces that shaped our planet raised from the ocean's depths the islands we now know as New Zealand. This violent and ongoing process resulted in a rugged and diverse topography. Steep mountains, active volcanoes, and geological faults made much of the terrain challenging for human habitation. The Southern Alps, a formidable mountain range that extends through much of the South Island, are a testament to this turbulent geological history. With peaks soaring over 3,000 meters, these mountains create a natural barrier, dividing the island and making vast areas virtually inaccessible. But it's not just the mountains that shape New Zealand's human geography. The country is blessed, or is it cursed, with an abundance of geothermal activity. Steaming geysers, bubbling mud pools, and volcanic lakes dot the landscape, particularly in the central region of the North Island. While these natural wonders attract tourists from around the world, they also render certain areas unsuitable for permanent settlements. And then, there's the weather. Positioned in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, New Zealand is at the mercy of the elements. Violent storms can lash the coasts, while the howling winds, known as the Roaring Forties, sweep across the southern highlands. These extreme weather conditions not only shaped the landscape over millennia, but also influenced where humans chose or could settle. But the story of human occupation in New Zealand is as fascinating as its geography. The first inhabitants, the Maori, arrived about 700 years ago, navigating vast stretches of the Pacific Ocean in canoes. They found a virgin land, free of terrestrial predators and rich in resources. However, even then, Maori settlements were primarily concentrated in coastal areas and fertile valleys, leaving much of the interior untouched. The arrival of Europeans in the 18th century brought dramatic changes, but the settlement pattern remained surprisingly similar. Cities grew mainly along the coast, where natural harbors facilitated trade and communication with the outside world. Today, this historical and geographical legacy is clearly visible in the population distribution. Auckland, the country's largest city, is home to almost one-third of New Zealand's total population. Other major cities like Wellington, Christchurch, and Hamilton follow a similar pattern, concentrating in coastal areas or fertile plains. But what about the rest of the country? Well, here's where things get really interesting. Vast areas of New Zealand remain virtually untouched by modern civilization. Dense forests cover large tracts of land, home to unique species that exist nowhere else in the world. The kiwi, a flightless bird and national symbol, roams these forests along with other exotic birds like the taka and kakapo. In the highlands, flocks of sheep and cattle graze on seemingly endless prairies, tended by farmers who might be the only inhabitants for miles around. These farms, some the size of small countries, are a testament to the importance of agriculture to New Zealand's economy. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of this empty land is what it hides. Scientists believe that vast reserves of minerals and other natural resources are yet to be discovered in the country's remote regions. Who knows what secrets the land holds, waiting to be unveiled? And we cannot forget the national parks. New Zealand has 13 of them, covering more than 30,000 square kilometers, an area larger than Belgium. These parks are not just wildlife sanctuaries. They are national treasures, protected by law for future generations. Fiordland National Park in the South Island is a perfect example. With an area of over 12,000 square kilometers, it is the largest national park in the country and one of the largest in the world. Its temperate rainforests, deep fjords, and rugged mountains create a landscape of otherworldly beauty. Yet, despite its international fame, much of the park remains unexplored and inaccessible. This uninhabited vastness is not just a geographical curiosity. It has profound implications for the country and its people. On the one hand, it offers New Zealanders a unique connection to nature. It's not uncommon for city dwellers to take weekend trips to completely wild areas, just a few hours' drive from home. On the other hand, this population distribution creates unique challenges. How do you provide services and infrastructure to remote communities scattered over such a vast territory? How do you balance economic development with the preservation of these precious natural spaces? The answer to these challenges has shaped New Zealand's national identity. New Zealanders are known for their ingenuity and self-sufficiency, traits born from the necessity to thrive in a sometimes hostile environment. They are also fervent environmental advocates, aware that they are the guardians of a unique and precious land. This environmental awareness is reflected in the country's policies. New Zealand is a world leader in conservation and sustainability. The government has set ambitious targets to reduce carbon emissions and protect native ecosystems. Innovative reforestation and species reintroduction projects are underway across the country. But the story of empty New Zealand is not complete without mentioning its most mysterious inhabitants, the creatures that may or may not exist in the depths of its forests and lakes. Maori legends speak of giant creatures hidden in the country's mountains and lakes. The most famous of these is the Taniwha, a mythical being that can take many forms, from giant reptiles to enormous sharks. Some modern New Zealanders swear they've seen inexplicable creatures in the deep waters of alpine lakes or in the dense, unexplored forests. Do these vast uninhabited areas hide secrets we have yet to discover? Are there unknown species roaming these remote lands? The vastness and isolation of New Zealand certainly leave room for the imagination to run wild. As the world becomes increasingly urbanized and connected, New Zealand stands out as a reminder that there are still places where nature reigns supreme. It's a country of striking contrasts. Modern, vibrant cities coexist with vast expanses of untouched nature, all within a relatively small territory. This duality creates a unique experience for visitors and residents alike. In one day, you could be enjoying the sophisticated cafes and lively cultural scene of Wellington. The next day, you might find yourself completely alone on a deserted beach, with only the sound of waves and the occasional cry of a seabird for company. But empty New Zealand is not just a playground for adventurers and nature lovers. It is a living laboratory, a place where scientists study unique ecosystems and geological processes in action. It is a refuge for endangered species and a vital gene bank for global biodiversity. And who knows what the future holds for these empty lands? As technology advances, areas once considered uninhabitable may become viable for settlements. Or perhaps, in an increasingly crowded and polluted world, the value of these wild lands will only increase, becoming an even more precious treasure for future generations. One thing is certain: empty New Zealand is much more than just unused space. It is an integral part of the country's identity, a source of national pride, and an invaluable resource in a rapidly changing world. So next time you look at a map of New Zealand, remember, those empty spaces are not really empty. They are filled with history, wildlife, possibilities, and yes, maybe even a little magic. New Zealand reminds us that even in our modern, hyper-connected world, there are still places where mystery persists, where nature still holds its secrets. It's an invitation to explore, to dream, and to marvel at the wonders our planet still has to offer. And who knows? Perhaps one day you'll find yourself in one of those vast expanses of empty land, contemplating the majesty of the mountains, the whisper of the wind in ancient trees, and the mystery of the unknown. Perhaps you'll be the one to uncover a secret hidden in the depths of empty New Zealand. But for now, the mystery remains. New Zealand continues to be a geographical and demographic enigma, a country where the empty is as fascinating as the inhabited. If you were intrigued by this journey through empty New Zealand, there's much more to explore and discover. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more fascinating videos like this, where we unravel the mysteries of our world and explore the most intriguing and unexplored places on the planet. Together, we can continue our journey of discovery, unveiling the secrets that Earth still holds. Until the next adventure!